rub the exhaustion out of our faces, put on some face tape, and let's go. Welcome to How We Shoot It, a podcast with two creatives who are just trying to figure it out. We talk about all things photo and video work, plus a few tips and tricks that we may have learned along the way. Here's the latest episode. Welcome back, everybody, to the latest episode of How We Shoot It. You've got me, Alyssa Allman, and my co-host,
Dante Bullhauer.
And today we are talking about all things social media marketing. How we do it, how we think we should do it, how you should do it, and maybe some extra bonus content. You never know with what we're going to say.
Yeah, we barely even know. So for you guys to know is impossible. Yeah, so let's just dive right in. So first, I kind of want to talk about how advertising now for like creatives running their own brand type thing, like especially this kind of relates a lot to sports with NIL stuff. You are the brand or whatever now. Like it's come to the point where the person is the brand, especially in the creative world where, you know, your creativity is only something you have. You are your entire brand. You're the marketing, you're the product, you're the, you know, post-production, all that stuff. And so sometimes it can be kind of weird for me specifically, just because you feel like you're just gassing yourself up all the time and you're just saying, hey, like, look at me, I'm the greatest, like, hire me because I'm way better than all these other punks. But it's very different in the sense that, you know, instead of like you work for McDonald's as a marketing person, you're promoting McDonald's and those products and those different things, where here you are promoting you and kind of what you can do. And it's kind of even a subjective thing because not everybody's going to like your brand per se, like whether it's your editing style or what. And so it's kind of a strange world, and it's kind of different from other types of marketing and other types of advertising, because it's not just like you can't point to something and say like that is what we're marketing, because it's in essence what you are and what you do. So I want to hear your thoughts on how to market yourself in, you know, in the creative realm.
I really like what you said about the NIL stuff, because that has been huge, especially for, you know, college athletes and even like some of the really, really good high school athletes who are getting, you know, recruited at like a young age of 15. But essentially now that social media is so big and being an entrepreneur is so much more obtainable, the whole concept of marketing yourself is way more than a strategic plan, and actually ends up being more like an organic, I don't know, luck of the draw, right? Like the only way that you can market yourself is to be your authentic self, but at the same time, now there's this box you get put in, because in order to stay relevant, you sometimes have to, you know, create content that pushes you out of your comfort zone. You have to, you know, be cognizant of everything that goes out on social media, from the title of your videos to the title of the audio you're using in the videos. Like, there's way more that goes into marketing now, especially as a creative. There's just, everything is on display for everyone to see. And in some ways that's awesome, because it gives us this chance to build a community and to learn from others and to share what we're working on. And at the same time, it's also horrible because there's this constant pressure to one-up yourself and make yourself stand out in a giant sea of content creators, because there's a ton of us, and that's good. That's not inherently bad. There's always room for more creatives at the table. You can end up just getting in an echo chamber where all you're doing is comparing yourself to what you're seeing other people post, and that's where it kind of gets a little messy. So that's like a 30,000 foot overview. I feel like there's a ton of like mini topics in there that we could talk about, but my whole thing, and like my mission statement or whatever you want to call it, like my whole reason that I do this is because social media is not going anywhere. I know that people really wish that, you know, oh, Facebook needs to shut down and Instagram needs to shut down. Well, that's not going to happen. I really strongly believe social media is here to stay, and how we use it determines the impact that it has on others. It can be a really toxic and negative space if you are using it for the wrong reasons, or seeing content that isn't making you better or making you a better person, but it's here to stay. So how can we use it to share stories, connect with other people, and actually use it for what it should have been used for? Does that make sense at all?
Yeah, and I think an interesting point with that is social, especially within the past like even 6 months, social media, like specific apps, Instagram, for example, changes so much. Like they're always trying to innovate, they're always trying to grow their platform. And a lot of times we don't really like it. Like we refuse change just kind of as humans. But Instagram has changed more. Like the whole big thing now is obviously short form video content. But how does a photographer fit into that world of short form videos? That say a photographer has no experience in video, doesn't mess with TikTok, Instagram Reels, whatever. Like how do they still find a space to stand out and to hit their audience? And so it's really kind of a weird time, and I still don't know. Like I market very different audiences on each different platform. Twitter, I market a lot of sports stuff because that's where the athletic directors are. That's where, the parents of the kids are looking for, score updates, that sort of thing. That's where like I hit a lot of my sports audience. Instagram is where I hit a lot of the kids that I'm actually taking photos of, whether it's athletes, seniors, just whatever. That's where I hit the like younger kids, and then Facebook's where I hit the parents and the people that are actually going to pay me and send me the check. And then YouTube is just kind of a whole different thing. It's like I just kind of a creative audience. And so looking at all the social medias and all the different ways to use them, you really have to be like a jack of all trades to be able to grow now in like 2022 going into 2023. You have to be able to adapt and grow and change. And this is something I really struggle with photo wise, because on Instagram all I like to do is post photos and I hate reels. But I've seen all these people just post a photo as a reel, put a song on it, 2 million likes, something like that. Like that's the way that Instagram is allowing you to grow now. And so I think one of the like biggest things on how to market yourself now in today's world is you have to be able to adapt. You have to be able to, one, know your market, know where your market is at, and then be able to execute the marketing for that specific audience on, whatever different platforms.
Yeah, I love what you said about the differences in audiences across all your platforms. I feel like if there's one thing you're going to take away from today's episode, it's that you have to know your audience. And I promise you, if you're on social media, you have more than one, because Dante's spot on. With my Instagram, it's all my friends. It's a lot of other creatives. It's a lot of people who are, I don't know, who are just like very similar to me. Like I have real connections. It's my real friends on Instagram. Facebook, 100%. It's the parents. It's the grandparents. It's the people who are going to write the checks at the end of the day. I'm not on Twitter. I used to be, but after the 2020 election, I was like, this is not a space I want to be in, and I don't have time to check one more thing. I'm actually not on TikTok, which is a huge downfall, and I need to swallow my pride and get on there.
Yep, we both do.
Yep. But yeah, so if you take away one thing from this episode, it's really learning where your audiences are and who they are and how you can connect with them. And then while you were talking, I was looking up this quote. So there is actually a quote that is out there called "A jack of all trades is better than a master of one." But actually the saying is "A jack of all trades is a master of none, but often better than a master of one." So I feel like that was kind of a big shift in the marketing world right before we kind of got started, was that everybody was super, super good at one thing. Like you had really awesome graphic designers, you had really awesome photographers, and you had really awesome videographers. Well, I think you can relate to this. I'm doing all three right now. Like you almost have to be able to do all of it in order to do even some of it, which is cool because you get to learn a lot of things, but it does often become super overwhelming. So I also want to point out that any photographer you talk to, any videographer you talk to, any entrepreneur or business owner that you talk to feels so inadequate and so underprepared for what self-marketing and social media marketing is all about. Like, we may look like we have it all together, we may look like we're posting all the right things, but at the end of the day, like, we are just trying to get our name out there, and we're just basically throwing a fishing line out into an ocean, right? Like, it's just so overwhelming. And so if you feel like you're not doing enough or you're not trying hard enough, like, everybody feels that way. Nobody knows what they're doing, and we're all just trying to make it look like we know what we're doing, right?
Yep. Yeah, the finished product goes out there and it looks, oh yeah, they put a lot. Like, I always look at different graphics and I'm like, every single part of that graphic was intentional. And then I look at graphics that I make, I'm like, I just kind of threw that on there. Like, I was like, oh, that kind of looks cool, whatever. But maybe they were the same and they're like, oh, I don't really know where this should go. I'll just throw the logo down here. And I look at it and I'm like, that's so cool how they put the logo down there. And so, like, the problem with, not the problem, but the interesting thing about the jack of all trades thing is there will always be somebody better than you at each individual aspect because they have tunnel visioned and focused on that individual thing. They know more than you about this. Another person knows more than you about this. And so that can kind of be hard. Like, you can have some imposter syndrome with that. Just thinking like, oh, how are they such a good videographer? Okay, well, they're a better videographer than you. Maybe you take better photos. Maybe you know more about, photo editing. Maybe you're a better graphic designer. And so that's something that kind of gets lost in the weeds when you see all these people posting all this stuff that they make. You got to remember, hey, like, we are all just trying to figure it out. And your quote makes me think of another quote. When this guy was looking for video editors to hire, and he was like, he said something about, you need to, like, focus on one thing, become a master at it, and then you can move on to different things, because too many people were applying for that job as, a video, graphic design, and photo guy. And he was like, I just want a video editor. And someone replied in the comments and said, jacks of all trades don't get hired, they hire. And I thought that was just a really cool quote, because yes, if you're good at all these things, you can make a living, piecing together different things and that sort of thing. But if you are really weak in one area, maybe you're really weak in video editing, you hire someone that's tunnel visioned into video editing. And typically just doing one of those things isn't, I'm just speaking out loud here. If you're just good at one thing, typically you're probably not going to grow as fast as someone that can do a whole multitude of things, and you're not going to be, one of those people that hires if you're just a photographer, you don't need to, you're not going to hire anybody because that's all you do. Whereas if you do all these things, you're going to be someone that ends up growing enough to be able to hire people to fill in the gaps that you don't have. And so, all that to say, yeah, no one knows what they're doing. We're all just trying to learn piece by piece, block by block on our knowledge. And it does seem hard when everybody looks like they have it put together, but everybody feels like they don't.
Right. And that just goes to the idea that I think creatives have to constantly live in a growth mindset. And if you're not careful, that can cause you to spiral really quickly because you will always feel like you're not doing enough. But I think the biggest like turning point for me in my creative career was really learning the value of the lesson of getting out of your own way. Like, for me, marketing myself is more about getting over myself and getting over the expectations and the, imposter syndrome that I put on myself. Nobody ever came to me and said, oh, I've seen this photographer and this videographer and this graphic designer and they're better than you. Nobody's ever said that to me. The only person that has said that to me is me. And so once I realized that I was the person getting in my own way because I was believing that I wasn't good enough, then I was really able to take that mindset of not caring about what other people think about you and put it into action. Because at the end of the day, I think that creatives and photographers and videographers try to look like we have it all together, but I promise you, we're all in our pajamas at 10 o'clock at night eating a bowl of cereal and trying to edit as fast as we can. Like, there's no, unless somebody specifically says that to you, first of all, that's rude and hurtful and not someone you should hang around. But, like, get out of your own way and start believing in yourself. Like, take the gig, even if you don't think you are good enough. Try the new graphic design program, even if it's going to take a while to learn. Like, stop putting the doubts on yourself and just keep going, keep trying, keep learning. Because, yeah, at the end of the day, you're more hireable, and your probability, your mathematical probability goes up if you know more things in more areas, because then you are more flexible and more readily available for any of the projects that come your way.
Yeah, and so let's dive into some like specific like concrete steps that you can like if you're just whether you're starting out or you just have no marketing whatsoever, you have no idea what you're doing. Um, let's like talk about some like concrete things that you can do if you are just kind of looking for, how do I get my name out there, that type of thing. Um, and we somewhat touched on this at the beginning. It's not the same as it was 20 years ago when you would hire out a giant agency, shoot a commercial about your brand, and then throw it up on the TV. Like that's not how we especially market ourselves. One thing that I really encourage, and this is kind of hard at first, and it's still kind of hard for me, is especially just being my own boss and starting out kind of fresh connection wise, is cold calling. And obviously, it doesn't have to be calling, but even not even the process of closing the deal, but if you see this social media account, if you see a business card with a website or something, and you feel like you have something to offer that business, that person, whatever, email them, call them, whatever way you can get a hold of them. Just get your name out there, and I guarantee that if that person says like, no, I don't need anything, when they do need something, your name will get out there, and then that just leads to when you do projects for just a whole ton of different people, and they say, oh, this is great work by Alyssa Allman doing this. That's like infinite marketing. And so just cold calling and getting your name out there is marketing in itself. But then if you can close on those different deals, then they market you, and then it just like compounds, and then you start building up all these different connections. But at the start, you have no connections. You just got to go wherever you can. I always hear coffee shops are great for creatives to go and say, hey, can I do a video for you guys? Can I hang up some photos on the wall? That sort of thing. And so cold calling would be probably one of my more important things to just, and it's hard because you don't really have I don't have the confidence to say, hey, you need me. You need these photos. And so it's more of a, how can I serve you? Like, how can I do stuff that will benefit you and also benefit me type thing. So cold calling would be my number one.
Yeah, that is something that I'm 4 years into this and just starting to figure out. Like, there's no right or wrong way to do this. Like, every single thing that you do that's trying is worth it. So, like, for me, the very first thing I did when I started AA Productions was I made social media pages for them both. It is, like we said, social media is kind of a pain in the butt, right? But it's also free marketing. Like, 20 years ago, if you wanted to get your photos or videos out into the world, you would have had, I honestly don't even know what you would have had to do. You would have probably had to contact a TV station. You would have had to like a newspaper, which wouldn't have even printed everything right. Like, so the fact that we have the capability to upload our own 4K videos, HD photos, like all those kinds of things on our own for free is a million times better than what people were working with, in the early 2000s. So I made a Facebook page right away, and I hated it. I felt like I was a phony, and I was like, well, what if I post 2 videos and nobody does anything with them? And then I just have this Facebook page with 15 followers, and it sucks and it fails. And it's like, well, that could have happened, but it didn't. And I feel like the more that you believe in yourself, the more other people will believe in you. And so for me, it was just as simple as starting an Instagram page and then starting the Facebook page. And then, a website came shortly after that. I didn't even have an official, logo or brand until this year. So it all goes back to that growth mindset and being willing to just start small and then keep going and keep growing. So for me, it was just as simple as making a social media page and then obviously sharing the content that I was creating.
Yeah, that kind of leads me into the next point in terms of sharing your content. If no one ever sees your content, no one ever like knows where to go to look at your stuff, if they're considering hiring you for whatever, you're not going to get hired. If they can't see readily available stuff, you're just not going to get that job just based on, oh yeah, I do good work. Someone says, yeah, he does good work. Well, okay, like let me see it. And so my next point is having a website, and or at least this can also be a social media page, a portfolio that is just easily available to see a large body of your work in one spot. For me, it's my website slash my social media. My website's kind of where I put just kind of the best stuff, where social media is a lot more like bang, 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 like just trying to stay in front of people. And so like, obviously this like half of what anybody asks me anymore. I work with one of my favorite brands, Bubbler, and this goes hand in hand with all that we've been talking about. I literally just emailed their contact page because I was just bored one day, and I was like, let's just see if they'll respond or something. I sent them just an email saying, hey, I'd love to work with you. If there's anything I can do for you, let me know. I drink Bubbler every day, so whatever. And then I sent them a link to my website, and they said, hey, we checked out your website, and based on those photos, we would love to do stuff with you. And having that website and having that updated just portfolios, whether it's a Facebook page, an Instagram page, a website, having a portfolio where your work is, and then being able to market that while you're, posting to social media, while you're talking to people, while you're networking, is huge. Like I get about 500 visits to my website a month. So that's 500 people that are going to my website, potentially, providing me with, money and things like that with work. And so having a website for me personally was just huge in being able to market myself, and having that portfolio where I could put sports photos, videos, family photos, graphic design work, all just in one spot for a client to look at was huge for me.
Yeah. And I really like what you said about contacting Bubbler because you like their product. I think the other thing that people get so hung up on too is market to people that you already like. Like, market yourself and position yourself so that the inquiries you get like vibe and jive with you, right? Like, Dante wouldn't want to market for a law school because he has no interest in law. Like, your creative genius and your creative fire and passion isn't going to come through if you're working on brands and projects you don't even like. Granted, yeah, there are the times where it's like, suck it up and go do the project and learn something new. But make yourself available to brands and people and clients and brides and seniors that are similar to you. And going back to putting your content out there, that will reflect who you are as a creative and who you are as a photographer, videographer, whatever. So, granted, Bubbler was a long shot for Dante, but it worked because he had a portfolio. He had like a shtick to give them that he drank their stuff all the time. So, on top of marketing for your clients, market for yourself. So that way people will want to hire you because they feel like they get an idea of who you are through your content. But yeah, I would say that 95% of my bookings are either from word of mouth because I've put myself out there, or because I share my content, and sharing my content gets sent on to other clients who need that same content, and it's just this cycle that you can kind of get in where, I don't know, is it guerrilla marketing? Maybe that's the term for it. I'm not sure, but there's really no scientific formula to market yourself. You just have to put yourself out there and put your content out there.
Yeah. And so kind of just, I guess, wrapping things up, my last kind of thing, and this is probably the pinnacle, most important thing that'll, help market yourself. And that is just be a good person and be like, be someone that is fun to work with when people book you. That is the best recommendation you can ever get. Is they made this a fun experience for my son, for me, for the family. That will get you word of mouth like you said, like way more than 3/4 of my inbound inquiries are because of a word of mouth, because someone said he does good work, whatever. And yeah, I could still do good work and do good stuff, but people aren't going to recommend me if I was a jerk and wasn't easy to work with, wasn't, was just kind of like, I want to do this. This is for my portfolio. This is a shot I want to get. Has nothing to do with the wedding. It's just a picture of the building, the venue. And I just wanted to photograph this venue. So I'm going to do this. This is going to be, how things go. That will not get you, like, you will not get recommended to other, you will not get referred to other people by doing that. And so just being a good person, being kind, and being easy and fun to work with will do probably more marketing than all the other things that we talked about.
Yeah, kindness always wins. I always tell people, just be normal. Just be a normal guy, Just be kind, be pleasant, be excited. And if your work isn't making you feel that way, then it's time to pivot and it's time to try something new, because you're never going to win being bitter, and you're never going to win hating what you do. Like, you're never going to be satisfied. So I hope this episode was helpful today. I feel like it was kind of a little scatterbrained and a little bit more vulnerable than usual, just because, just like we said, we're still figuring it out and we're still trying new things. So hopefully you found something you could take away from today's episode. But if not, we'll see you next time. Dante, got any closing words?
Not really. Just get out there, put yourself out there. It's hard in the beginning, but once you get used to not knowing what you're doing, everything opens up and you feel free to be vulnerable and be able to market yourself. So just get out there as much as you can, do what you can, and let's see what you create.